All right, boys and girls. It's time to talk about possibly the most profitable, important, leveraged piece of the entire sales process. And that is, of course, discovery. So if you learn nothing else, for the love of God, learn this. Learn how to listen, ask, and pinpoint specific information that will help you obtain leverage as you go to close a deal. This truly is where sales reps will take a quantum leap, or you'll stay in pitchdom forever. You will spin your wheels, you will spend more time, you will chase people around, and you will make less money unless you learn to ask powerful questions, unless you learn to seek to understand before you are being understood. So I will share with you 4 key concepts in terms of discovery. Each are important and each build on each other. This needs to become a sequential process for you. So let's go into each of them. Info gathering, surveying into digging, identifying and labeling problems that you can solve, and wondering and finding out what they have tried to fix it. Now, this process is widely an interrogative process. This is widely deductive reasoning, if you are familiar with that Sherlock concept. And we will be using a concept from manufacturing, actually, to identify constraints and bottlenecks, and again, attain massive amounts of buy-in through providing this clarity. So let's go into each of these in a little more detail. Now, info gathering is something that if you've been in sales for any amount of time, it's likely that you have learned how to do this, and you're doing it pretty well right now. So keep doing it. Make sure that there is essential, crucial information that you must find out from your prospect every single time that you speak with them. So in order to do that, we have to understand the basic side of the business or their life if you're on a lifestyle offer. And this is going to be the information that is general enough to feel easy to discuss early phases into the sales process, but specific enough where it allows us to find opportunities to dive in. So this is just quite simply a good place to start. And the better that you get at rapport and frame, you'll actually start to find out information in their application, their pre-call text messages, emails, notes. If you have another call to listen to, you'll already be able to pick up their language patterns and dive more directly into the information that's going to be useful for you based on the problem that you solve. All of the information that we are going to collect is based on the problem that we solve. So going from surveying into digging, and what I mean by that is that if you have a plot of land where you are going to find buried treasure, you'll likely start wherever is inconspicuous and someone seems like a place where you might hide buried treasure. Or if you have a map or if you have hints, then you'll go off those hints. And I promise you, in the rapport phase, there are hints and clues everywhere. In the application that you have likely before your call, there are hints and clues everywhere. So where you survey becomes more precise the better that you get at reading your audience and knowing your offer. However, if you were just going to blanket survey, starting with the most general and broad questions possible, you will start to find areas that make sense as dig sites. So you're going to go from general business life questions to keying in on 1 to 3 areas and finding how they relate to each other or attach to each other. Finding these relation or attachment points are crucial because when we have several points of data in our brain, we start to attach feelings to those data points. Hearing that there are 32,000 fire hydrants in a city doesn't mean anything to you. But if you are someone who has to inspect and replace parts on all 32,000 fire hydrants, and you only have a weekend to do it or a month to do it, you now have some feelings about that situation, don't you? So 32,000 fire hydrants alone doesn't mean anything to anyone, but when you attach the other situational data points, that starts to become meaningful. And so the fact that someone is making $10,000 a month could seem like a good thing. But to the person who was recently making $50,000 per month, that is a catastrophe. To the person who is paying $8,000 per month in business expenses, that is a situation for disaster and failure. You see what I mean by that? So going from general to specific and finding how one point or one situation, one occurrence leads to a pattern. It is very common that when situations occur once, they are a repetition or they have the potential to turn into a repetition. And so if someone just lost a big client, I'm sorry to hear that, Mrs. and Mrs. Customer. Is this the first sizable client that you've lost? Well, actually, it's the third. Interesting. And since when? It's the third this year. Huh. Why do you think that is? What changed this year? What's been happening? Well, every single one of the clients who've left have left because they weren't getting the communication that they wanted. Their ad costs were rising. They didn't get results with such and such and such. Find those patterns on your sales calls. And remember that how we as human beings feel about our situation rules the next step. And if you want to learn more about this, look up the scientific concept activation energy. What actually is the motive for your prospect to get on the call with you? What is the cause and effect cycle that they're a part of? What was the trigger event that made them see an advertising, disrupt their day, watch something, look at something, read something, click something, fill something out, wait on a calendar, and talk to you, a stranger, who they know your intention is to sell them something? They are putting themselves in a compromised position because they need help, not because it's good for their health. So as we begin to identify the specific problem that they are dealing with, and so let's say we help people get more customers, we help them get more leads. Well, what about their lead generation process is not working? What part of their lead generation process is working? How do they feel about the leads that they're getting right now? And what is the very, very specific problem that they are experiencing? Where in the obstacle or the process of attaining more lead flow are they getting stuck? Are they not generating leads at all? Are they generating bad leads? Are they not capitalizing and converting on the leads? Did they have a bunch of leads, but they lost them? They didn't reach out to them. They burned their list. Find out what happened previously, find out what's happening now, and find out what's going to happen if things continue. We'll get into consequences here in the next video. So as we identify the problems that we solve, we then must become aware of this concept is really like a connect the dots worksheet that you are familiar with from elementary school, let's say. You have a series of answers, or let's say specific information. 5 clients but could handle more. $13,000 in revenue but wants 35. Is working 60 hours a week but wants to work 20. You have specific situational information from your prospect. And on the other side of the table, you have what will connect the dots for them. Systems that will allow them to work less. Lead generation strategies that will generate quality clients. Content and messaging frameworks that will allow them to warm colder traffic up and turn them into warmer traffic. Low ticket offer structure and strategy that will allow them to liquidate ad spend and ramp their sales cycle up. Give them a qualified pool of prospects to follow up with to upsell and upgrade. These would be the solutions on the right-hand side of our Connect the Dots worksheet. These are the solutions that you have to provide for them. And so if someone elaborately tells me a situation about how they are generating a lot of leads, but none of them are wanting to buy the high ticket coaching. And I might ask a question, I'm curious, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, do you think that your prospects who aren't going for your higher ticket offer would pick up, let's say, a $100, $500, even $1,000 product or service for you to allow you to build more know, like, and trust factor? And let's say my prospect says, yes, that would be amazing. I've tried that. It just wasn't the right product, or I didn't get out to many people, or thought that I did a bad job, or I wasn't really sure what they wanted. And so in this situation where we identify the solution or the potential solutions, the solution that they are open to, we're not presenting it as this is the strategy that we're going to use. I'm just curious. If I had something, would that be valuable to you? This is where we label and identify the problem they have and start to identify a potential solution. Sounds like you have leads, but you don't have any qualified colder traffic, a way of moving cold traffic to warmer traffic. I'm curious, if you had something, say a low ticket offer, is that something you'd be interested in? Is that something you could see working in your value ladder? Yes, Cody. So once we identify where the prospects need to make progress is within the set of problems that we solve, we ask these preferably non-obvious suggestion questions to speak to the prospect's current problem, finding it, intellectually labeling it, and then asking the question around if they're open to potential solutions that we're going to present with them reasonably in several minutes. And then we move on. We plant the seed and then we move on. We don't linger or spend time. And if we do linger or spend time too much on a potential solution, then your prospects, specifically the most sophisticated prospects, will start to get a little too smart, and they will start to pull you into a pitch before you are ready to make it. So it's very important that when we identify and label problems and talk at all about solutions or potential solutions or ask about potential solutions, we do not linger, because they will pull you into a trap of selling to them too early. And if you are anxious or jumpy, or you think that you can skip the next important part of the sales process, then you will be selling too soon. You'll find yourself pitching your service within 10 to 15 minutes, maybe even earlier on your sales calls. And that is just not where we want to be. So after we do this, another important piece of the discovery process, and you can start to accelerate yourself towards this point, the quicker and the more familiar you become with the first 3 points I have on screen here. And that is finding out what they have tried to solve this problem. So I'm curious, you have been in business for 3 years and you are trying to get to 30K per month, and you keep kind of maxing out around 15 and then burning out. What have you tried to get around that burnout? So what have they tried to fix the problem? And if you notice, I'm making that question as specific as possible. I'm not saying, so what have you tried to fix the problem you're running into? That's lazy. So find out what's worked, find out what's not working, find out the reference to what pulled them in. So is that why you clicked on the ad then? Is that why what we have out there kind of stood out to you? Because we talk, of course, about charging more for your services. It sounded like you're getting great results. You have a good market. I think you're just undercharging. And so have you tried charging 5K plus? And then they're going to have an excuse about how they have and it didn't work and their sales process needed to change or what have you. And then I'm going to go into, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you can't just raise your price arbitrarily, right? You have to be able to shift around how you deliver your package as well, so it's a more seamless experience. Because while you're great, and some people would be willing to pay you 5K, cold traffic leads won't. And unless you have a seamless customer experience, people are likely going to refund or get frustrated with your product. They won't refer, they won't get as good results, and they likely won't retain and stick on as long-term clients. So remember that everything in the marketing led them here. It told them that you might have the solution for them. And your job is to specifically pinpoint exactly where our solution is going to come in and help them. And so you're still working on pinpointing. And at this point, once you've done this, once you've gone from general basic info to specific problems that they're running into, identified, labeled them, and suggested solutions, talked about what they've tried to fix it, next we need to very clearly, very calmly, very concisely diagnose the issue. And before we do that, the most adept, masterful sales reps are looking for obstacles. At this point, you have a very, very beautiful opportunity to look for inflection points, objections, look for doubt, and you either get to decide to continue or stop the process. Because your prospect would have given you either green flags, buying signals, or red flags, or somewhere in between, and maybe there are some concerns or potential obstacles like timing, logistics, other people, their fear, their lack of confidence, some sort of doubt in themselves, or doubt or lack of trust in you or the business. And you want to look for these opportunities and suss them out, call them out, ask about them early, before your prospect brings them up in your close, before they object to how you're going to sell to them, before you spend another 15, 20 minutes and a lot of oxygen explaining and educating and ramping up and hyping up and shouting and telling stories and fake laughing and doing all the stuff that you do when you pitch. Protect yourself, protect your energy, and make sure it makes sense to be a fit. Make sure that they are a fit. So what we'll go into next is the diagnostic process that we have used thousands of times to transition from discovery into presentation into a new customer. So I'll see you on the next one.